morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Friday, August 8th, 2025. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy Friday, everyone. Here's a look at the ES in the daily time frame right here. The previous session, strong high for the day, dropped, found a strong low late in the session, bounced late in the day, and got back toward the midpoint here the previous session. That officially creates kind of an impulse move and a new key range on an intraday basis, and then here overnight we have traded perfectly at the center of that previous day's range in a super narrow range right now heading into the RTH session. Just 26% of ADR, only 20.5 points of range. Look how small that range is right now. There is nothing on the economic calendar for today, no big news or reports here. So we could be mostly range bound here throughout the session. Basically back and forth, fade new highs, fade new lows near the center of the range here. And we could be mostly range bound with a low range day today. Basically the previous session's high and the previous session's low are the key levels to watch here. If we get any play at the edges, it could be a fade back to the previous day's mid if we even get enough volatility to get out there. If you look at the wider range here for the last several days, it's a nice range as well from here up to here, and we're really stuck anywhere within the boundaries of that range right now. So we are stuck at the center of this range. This is something we talked about after that impulse move and pullback here. That's a new key range right there as well, and we're now stuck at the center of that range for a while. And that was the point here on Monday, to get back to the previous week's midpoint. Between those two extremes, that creates a new key range, and we could be stuck in here for a little while, which is better than the alternative of selling off tremendously to find that impulse low. So right now, range bound day between the two extremes of yesterday's session. Could be back and forth day here throughout much of the day. Looking at the NQ, very similar price action here. 22% of ADR and just 80 points of range right now, right at the center of yesterday's range. Another key range on an intraday basis as well. At the end of the session, we were down here, and then we popped just before the close to get the midpoint. Look at that narrow range. We could go anywhere within yesterday's range and kind of fade back in. So trading range bound for the most part here. Still a modest upward bias overall, especially from Monday's low and Wednesday's lows, so still an upward bias, but at the same time stuck within the boundaries of the larger range. Looking at crude oil, this one's up 6/10 of a percent or 2/3 of a percent right now. And did we find a low today? Did we find a low? Remember, we talked about this low being, trying to find that low here, or is it in? Do we get a nice reaction somewhere between 63 and 64? That's what we were looking for. Can we find a reaction? And here today, that's a pretty decent reaction. It's a lower low rejection against the low a couple of days ago. Lower low rejection, especially if you look at the intraday time frame. It's not the strongest reaction yet, but a nice lower low, rejection of 2-day lows, already testing the previous session's mid. Still a very bearish bias on this short-term trend. Still a very bearish bias, but as we noted before, any drop here into 63, 64, let it play out. Watch for that awesome rejection. If we get a great rejection there, it's back up to the center of the range and up towards 71 for a move to the upper edge. So again, watching this area for reaction. It looks like the early stages of rejection, but we could still build out here over the next day or two to see if we get that proper rejection for a snapback opportunity. If we fail at 63, that's going to open up a return to 58.20, which is our May FOMC key level. Untested, untouched since that development day. If we fall through 63s, we're going to open up 58. All right, let's take a look at gold. Gold up big today, 1.3% higher, but off the highs of the day. That push right there shot us way up, and then ever since then there's been lower highs coming into play, anywhere between 3,500 and about 3,515 or so. That's been lower high, lower high, lower high on an intraday basis after the strong after hours high. That put in a new all-time high up there for gold. It finally got a big-time transition style day yesterday. I mentioned yesterday that, or I mentioned this entire week since last Friday, that if we're going to break through 34.50, we needed a big day. We needed a big day to push beyond 34.50 in a big way, and ideally, we would close beyond 3,500. And we got super close to closing beyond 3,500. This looks the part of a transition day, but it also didn't do just enough to give us that full confirmation. You know, here's 34.50 right there. This was your breakout, your close yesterday basically here. And, you know, we are getting into some territory that we haven't gotten before. So it was right there. This is a new high, but seeing an initial reaction here. As I mentioned before, this one is still super bullish. It's just when are we going to get the confirmed breakout? Is it now? Because that looked legit on Friday, but it didn't quite give us the breakout. This was the 3-day buildup of energy, and then this is the push that we've seen out of the range. Not bad. Not bad at all. This almost suggests that any pullback now could be the continuation to new highs up ahead. So again, while this may or may not be the actual move, it is building to become the move, as gold has the potential here to really get a big time upside push toward 3,900 to 4,000. That's a big time continuation that could play out up ahead for gold. All right, looking at, let's take a look here at the YM. YM right now, the previous session with a big time failed high, outside day down, high range day. Previous session 715 points of range. That's pretty significant here. It looks the part of a secondary day one rejection, a lower high to the recent reaction here, which was a higher high failure. Is this an opportunity to drop this thing down and keep this thing going? On face value, it does look that way. But when you look at the actual selling pressure, when you look at the pace and tempo of the recent price action, it doesn't look the part of a meltdown mode yet. Instead, again, the previous session here, to get back to that midpoint there, it opens up the potential to trade to any edge within yesterday's range. We can come up here, we can come down here, and we're in the range here for a little while longer. So that range yesterday set basically the trading range for the rest of the week here. We could trade anywhere in that zone. Now, if we start to fail through the lows here, it may open up that downside. But again, big time lows down there at 43.9. Any push into that zone could be a push right back up until this thing's ready to move. Now, again, next week will be important here. That was a sell-off week last week. This week has been mostly bounce back and hold. Next week could be a high range week anywhere out of this range, whether it's through 44.6 and up or whether it's down here through 43.9 and down. Next week could be a bigger range week. All right, looking at Bitcoin here. Bitcoin trading 117 right now. A little bit of a pullback here happening after yesterday's trend move up. We've talked about this right edge over here. Are we going to hold this edge? Can we rotate higher out of it? And right now we're doing just enough, but really it's not a surefire it's time to go. We may actually get a lower low and go or something like this, but again, it's kind of building here. You kind of have that flagging behavior here that could also break out at some point, but it still looks like we're kind of in the range right now. In the range, still in upward bias until proven otherwise. A big time transition down through 112 would prove otherwise, at least short term. But right now we're not there just yet. So again, this thing's still building some energy, still has quite a bit of juice in here, 20,000+ points of energy. So when it's ready, we'll get that move. ETH up another 0.8%, 39 and change. This is a new high. We got 39.99 on this move. 39.99. Remember, from 14 we were looking for 28 rather, with a potential continuation toward 4,000 to 4,200. On the pullback, we were looking for 22 for a continuation up to 4,000 as well as a retest entry. This thing has played out flawlessly, and now within 1 point of the 4,000. So big time move into that zone. Are we developing a bit of a range up here? We could be. So we could swing back and forth. Failure at 34, we head down. Holding 34, and we still have a shot for not only 4,000 proper, but also 4,600 down the road. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out here heading into the rest of the session. Happy Friday. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the trading room. Take care.